I just think tactically, Mikel Arteta looks for something else from his wide man. And Martinelli offers a lot of that without always offering the end product. Trossard gives you the end product, but maybe doesn't stretch teams as much, doesn't give you that defensive work rate that Gabriel Martinelli can give you. So it's an interesting debate, but I think we make too much of it. I think it's one that we go into in too much depth when actually it's just about the fit for the game plan, and basically it's about what works on that day. And it's not a criticism of Leandro Trossard or a mark against him that he doesn't always start. He's just that kind of player.
Oh, no, 100%. And it's funny because obviously what you said, Jeremy, about when he is on the bench, I don't always tend to worry because especially last season, he was the super sub. That's what he got called, the super sub. So he's still, when that happens, he comes on and gets those critical goals, get those moments where we need him. He seems to deliver, which is always really interesting.
Yeah, the concept of the bench, right? Let's have a conversation about it. I mean, because it's changing, isn't it? I mean, we didn't have 5 subs when you played, right? So I think you could change half the team. And so the mindset of how we look at players and start a game, from a fan perspective, maybe needs to develop. I think there's development room in how we use substitutes, how we recruit for players who are absolutely focused on adding a lot of power for maybe half an hour, so you get a 90 minutes from one position. I think there's room for evolution in our mindset around the players that don't start. Now, when you're coming through academies, Jeremy, everything you want to do is about starting the game, get minutes. I feel as though I've succeeded because I'm starting. But maybe even that needs to change at the highest level. That mindset needs to change, and people will be judged more on minutes that you get and your impact to the squad overall. I think the game has got room to evolve in that thought process, in my mind anyway.
I can't agree more. Because I remember in my time, as you said, there was only 3 subs, and rarely substitute were done quickly. It was always 10, 15 minutes at the end. And I just feel now fans, players, everybody needs to change their mindset, because being on the bench, it doesn't mean that you're not as good as the one that start, because you will come on. There's so much more games now that you will get your time. You've just got to be patient, keep focused, keep thinking about what is the best thing for the team at the time. And if the best thing is for you to be the super sub like Trossard coming on and having that mindset, I've got 15 minutes, I'm going to change the game. And that's what he does. Yeah. I think he's got that mindset where he doesn't take it as a, obviously, disappointment, because you want to be on the bench, or you want to be on the pitch, but thinking, you know what, whatever I get today, I'll make something. Yeah. Something will happen. I'll do something, I'll score, I'll assist, or I'll turn the game around. And that's a massive, massive point, yeah.
I do think people read into Trossard's body language sometimes too much, as well, his facial expression, because he never looks happy when he scores. He always has this same expression. So sometimes people will look at Leandro Trossard and say he looks unhappy or he looks miserable. Actually, he's just got a very, it's an expression that doesn't give anything away. So I don't think we need to read into it too much.
So then let's move on to William Saliba. He, unfortunately, gave away a penalty with France, but we all watched the video. He slipped. I mean, it looked like he slipped. Do you think this was a really, really unlucky penalty?
Yeah, it was super unlucky, wasn't it? He just lost his footing at the key moment. I've seen people on social media try to pick it apart, and there's been a lot of hype around William Saliba, and rival fans don't necessarily like it, and they don't like some of the comparisons being made between him and some of the other Premier League defenders. But he's just slipped. It's not a misjudgment. It's not a bad moment of defending. He hasn't switched off. He's just literally lost his footing. I blame the pitch.
Yeah, well, firstly, I don't want him on the bench, right? But seriously, I think when he plays for France, he plays on the left-hand side of that central defence partnership. And for us, obviously, he's always on the right-hand side. And I think that's an important difference. I think his body orientation is not quite the same. He covers across to the right a lot. He approached that, Jeremy knows, he approached that too fast, didn't he? Didn't slow down enough. So it ended up means he fell over. I don't mind him doing that in front of the world. Do that in front of the world, because then no one's going to come along and buy you. I think that's really important. We need to stop hyping our players and just quieten it down, because seriously, one of the key things we have to think about is succession planning with this group, not just the players, but the coaches. You don't think people are not looking at what we're doing and not trying to take our good people away to try to destabilise us. And so it's happening without us knowing. Trust me on this, right? So, William Saliba, we all know how good he is. Let's just get a few comps out there that show the slipping, and so no one comes near him. Honestly, we need to let people run away with their comparisons, and we just stay nice and calm and watch him every single week, hopefully the next half a decade.
For me, there's a couple of things. With France, there's been, before the Euros, a lot of people talking about William, saying he's not that good, and he could not get in the French team before the Euros. Didier Deschamps saying it, and I could not really get my head around it. And I think that put a lot of pressure when he plays for France. He's not the same player mentally. I just feel he's a bit nervous, he's a bit stressed. That's the first thing. The second thing, the way we play Arsenal, he gets the ball, he tries to find passes through the line to Jorginho, Partey, Declan Rice, whoever it is. France don't really want that too much. And I think that's what Didier Deschamps is not really happy with him. Defensively, no problem. We know, as a defender, what he can do. When he has the ball, he still wants to play the Arsenal way. Yeah. And France don't really want him to do that. They just want him to defend and then just hit it wide. But he wants to play. And that's what happened as well on the Tchouaméni's red card. Yeah. He tried to play, lost the ball, and then Tchouaméni have to give a second yellow, go red card. So everybody in France start blaming Saliba for it, and obviously give a penalty away. Plus that, I just feel he's a little bit more under pressure with France than he is with us. Obviously, we just appreciate him and know what he can do.
So then, did you?
No, it's a really good point, actually. The impact of international football on our players. In our bubble, we know them so well, and they can do no wrong, and they know everybody around them. But it was the same for Declan Rice in the summer. He got some criticism about how he played, and he's come back into our world, and people are looking at him slightly differently. Same for Saliba. We can't understand it because they do so well. But when they come out, they come back in, it's important that we give them the right support and give them time to adjust. So it's a really good point being made about Saliba there. I totally agree.
So then before we wrap up with the international news, let's have a quick chat about David Raya. So he could be the new Spain number one. He played on Spain's 1-0 win over Denmark and then their 3-0 win against Serbia. So it can only be good for Arsenal if he does make that number one shirt for Spain.
Yeah, I think he's clearly grown in confidence this season. I think when he first joined the club, the pressure of having to replace Aaron Ramsdale and the noise from the supporters, it probably weighed quite heavy on David Raya. And when Ramsdale left, he kind of felt like a weight had been lifted off of his shoulders. I think Ramsdale's shown incredible class, by the way, in some of the things he said about Raya since his departure. But you can see he's more confident. He comes and claims things. The defence believes in him a little bit more. And there's that cohesion between him and the centre-halves that maybe was lacking at times at the beginning, which is natural. New goalkeeper with a new backline, it's going to take time to develop those relationships. But he's grown in stature as an Arsenal player. And I've never been too sure about Unai Simon in the Spain goal. So I'm not surprised that with the form that David Raya is in, he's playing as the number one right now. And I think he's good enough to hold on to it.